Dr. Kiran, we are live. The stage is all yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from around the world today. And a very warm welcome to all participants joining us from different corners of the world. I am Dr. Kiran Ikram, an academician, social scientist, and a 1 million leadership fellow of Women Ascension Community Outreach Program. It is indeed a privilege to host this meaningful session titled The Empowering Communities Through Hygiene Information. It is an initiative organized by Women Ascension. First, I would like to acknowledge the Women Ascension team for organizing this outreach initiative and for their steadfast commitment to foster empowerment, leadership, gender equality, community development, and well being. Women Ascension is a global nonprofit organization dedicated to providing a platform for women to participate and practice their skills, develop leadership qualities, and achieve self sustainability. It emphasizes diversity, inclusivity, and the values of tolerance and pluralism, recognizing that true progress cannot exist without these principles. Women Ascension is not solely about women's empowerment, it is about equipping individuals with the skills to sustain themselves and uplift their communities. This platform develops open dialogue, idea sharing, and opportunities that align with personal and professional goals, irrespective of gender. The mission is further strengthened by male allies who help extend its research, ensuring that empowerment efforts have a broader impact. As we are gathered here virtually, I am pleased to be your guide in exploring how knowledge awareness and collective action around hygiene can lead to stronger, healthier, and more resilient communities. Equally, I wish to extend gratitude to each of you for allocating your time and energy to participate in this session. Your presence reflects the shared dedication to creating meaningful change. Today's dialogue is anchored in a simple yet powerful belief that informed communities are empowered communities. By strengthening hygiene awareness and translating information into sustainable practices, we can build healthier, more resilient, and socially responsible societies. Today's sessions aim to highlight how the dissemination of hygiene information, when rooted in empathy, participation, and cultural sensitivity, can be a tool for empowerment. We will explore how informed citizens, especially women and youth, can champion cleanliness, health, and preventive practices, thus strengthening the social fabric of their communities. The discussion is about understanding the critical role of hygiene in public health and prevention of diseases, exploring effective methods to disseminate hygiene information, particularly in undeserved areas, discussing the impact of community based education and awareness campaigns on hygiene practices, addressing barriers to adopting hygiene practices, and finding solutions through cultural sensitivity and local engagements. Through this discussion, we hope to inspire both thought and action, bridging knowledge with initiative and awareness with transformation. We are deeply honored to have with us our distinguished mentor, Ms. Michelle Sikachia, whose leadership and advocacy, social activism in reproductive health, community empowerment, women's development, and have inspired the countless individuals. Her dedication to uplifting communities through education, mentorship, and advocacy continues to set a benchmark in transformative social engagement. This is my distinct pleasure to introduce her, and because she is a seasoned community development advocate and mentor, and we are very much happy to know her for her impactful work in leadership, gender equity, and public health promotion. Her leadership style embodies empathy, purpose, and transformation qualities that deeply align with the vision of Women Ascension. Without further ado, I am honored to invite Ms. Michelle Sikashia to lead us through her session on empowering communities through hygiene information. Ms. Sikashia, the floor is yours now. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone in here. And thank you so much for, like out of your busy schedules, you've created time to just join this session and learn one or two things. So, as earlier introduced, my name is Michelle. Kachir, and I am a young person from Zambia. I am an activist, also a nursing student. I do a lot of things. I'm also a media personality. Yes, I'm in the media industry, but I do quite a number of things. So, just to dive in right into the conversation, today's conversation starter, we are looking at empowering communities through hygiene information. So, like as earlier alluded, I'm going to do my presentation. Then from there, I apologize. I didn't prepare slides because mostly I like speaking things from my mind and heart because this is something that I'm truly passionate about. So I don't believe in slides, but I'll surely share them as soon as I get done with my presentation. Thank you. So first and foremost, like Ayla mentioned, I'm going to do my presentation. Then at the end of the conversation, um, I'm going to ask questions of which I'm going to expect answers from you because I want it to be an interactive discussion rather a session. So how then are we going to make sure that we empower communities through hygiene information? So some of the key points that I'm going to share are
Um, Miss, actually, we can't hear you. I guess there's some technical issues from speaker side, so just kindly hold on.
I think there is some problem with the internet, or might be some technical concerns can be there for the speaker. So we can have some uh, patience to wait for her. Obviously, she has a very good and valuable knowledge to share with us. So I think a little wait can be more beneficial for us. So In today's world, where the urbanization and population increase and other global factors that have influencing the health, it is very important to empower the communities through the basic knowledge of health and health-related practices. And obviously, it is very much interlinked with the overall well-being and overall, empowerment of the communities, because the daily health practices can decrease our expenditure on the health sector, on our medication, and on other issues which can be the outcome of little ignorance and lead towards the major diseases. So we can eliminate that expenditure on the state, on the individuals, and on our families by inculcating those practices in our daily lives. So this is very much important, that how we practice this not only as an individual, in fact, as a community, as in our groups, in our institutions, and at the larger level. So it will be obviously a source of empowerment in the current scenario around the globe,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
particularly,
Rightly said, Dr. Kiran. Our
thank you so
speaker,
much.
thank you for taking over the stage. Our speaker has joined in.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you can join in. And sorry for the technical difficulties, participants.
No, thank you so much. I apologize. I'm just having a bit of internet challenges here and there. So like I was saying, when we talk of public health, we're not just looking at an individual, but we are looking at a community as a whole. So basically, one of the vital things that we're supposed to put in place in making sure that we attain this, in making sure that we empower communities through hygiene practices is number one. First and foremost, we have to carry out an assessment. So when I talk of carrying out an assessment, I'm talking of going in the communities, finding out some of the challenges they are facing. Quite right, they might face quite a number of challenges, but one thing, trust me, one thing out of those challenges will surely stand out. And if that one thing stands out, how then are you going to make sure that you, the person who is assessing that community, you work together with that community to make sure that you know you eliminate that problem. So one of the things that you're supposed to put into consideration is have an interactive workshop. So when we have interactive workshops, it actually gives people an opportunity to be able to, like open up, be able to express themselves and, air out their views on issues that are affecting them on the ground. Because when I just come here as an individual talking about, let's say I talk of community A, I say community A is facing such and such a challenge without me going on the ground and asking people exactly what they are facing. Meaning, I'm not really having that sympathizing with the community. But when I go on the ground and ask them the challenges they are facing, it's going to be easy even for them to express themselves and tell me even other challenges that they might be facing. The other thing that you are supposed to put into consideration is community health. So when I talk of community health, in most communities, like from my country, you find that in most communities we get to have all these community meetings where we come together, involve our leaders, and tell them to say, okay, we have this challenge. How then are we going to address it? Because like recently, we have had an outbreak of cholera, which is a waterborne disease. Now, imagine we have an outbreak of cholera, but then people are still not following those hygiene practices that can help them in preventing cholera, which is very bad. But if you just look at it in a perspective to say, okay, maybe the community, they are not putting in much effort, forgetting to say it's not everyone who can be literate enough to understand these things. There are people who are, for lack of a better term, I would say there are people out there who are illiterate. They can't read, they can't write. So when you go in those communities, under community health, you are supposed to make sure that you also communicate to those people in a language that they are able to understand. Because when you communicate to people in a language that they're able to understand, they'll be able to, it's going to be easy for them to understand, and make sure that, they put up all those preventive measures in preventing, or rather following those hygiene practices that will help them in the prevention of, diseases that can cause an alteration to the normal functioning of the body. Then the other thing is visual aids. So one of the things that I have been doing as an individual in my activism works is, when I go in communities, let's say when I was told to say I'm supposed to do a presentation on, community, anything to do with hygiene practices, I had to do a community assessment. And when I first started, from my community, and one of the things I did was not only to talk to people, like just me using my grammar, me using my local language, no, but I had to bring in something that will draw their attention to wanting to learn more and practice those hygiene practices, put them into consideration so that they can prevent the prevention of those diseases that can cause, that can cause, pose a threat to their health. So what I did is I carried visual aids with me. Visual aids, I'm talking about pictures that will draw attention, especially to little ones. You find that mostly kids get to have that interest in wanting to learn something if they are seeing it like visually, presented to them. So when you are trying to make sure that you educate the community and you just look at the aspect of wanting to target a certain group, that will not work. But when you put in the consideration of even young ones, because young ones are the future leaders, young ones are the, tomorrow's, like generation. So now if you educate a young person, trust me, even when they grow older, they will be able to impact that knowledge on other young people, making it easy for people to follow those hygiene practices and making sure that we don't have all these diseases that are coming about, posing a threat to the health of individuals and the community at home. Last but not least, we're looking at demonstrations. So when I talk of demonstrations, I'm talking about, let's say I'll bring in the aspect of maybe dramas, or yeah, dramas, poetry, singing. There are quite a number of ways on which one can disseminate information to people out there, because it's not everyone in a community that is able to speak. It's not everyone in a community that is able to write. It's not everyone in the community that is able to understand certain things. But when you incorporate and bring about that inclusivity in not, sidelining other people from getting or attaining that knowledge, it's going to be easy for you to make sure that each and every community, they have all those hygiene practices outlined and they have all those objectives. And at the end of the day, what are we trying to achieve? We're trying to achieve a community that is going to be safe and free from diseases, because people know what they want. People know what they're supposed to do to prevent those alterations of the normal function in the body. People know what they're supposed to do to prevent all those diseases that would pose a threat to their health, not only to their health, but even to the next generation to come. So I think these are some of the things that we're supposed to put into consideration. And also the other thing I'll talk of is, when we talk of disseminating of information and trying to make sure that we empower these communities, we have all those, we have mothers or people from our communities. How about we bring in activities, ideas that will bring even older people on board? What do I mean? Let's say we have people that are not doing anything. Maybe we just say, we talk of staying home moms. They're just looking after kids. How about you give them something to do? They go in those communities, they impact knowledge on their fellow women, so that each and every woman would have interest in wanting to see that change, wanting to see that development. So this is why now the aspect of empowering women comes in. They say, I believe in, they say education is an equalizer, but look at it in this way. Education, quite right, yes, is an equalizer, but it's also easy because we people were gifted in so many different ways. It's also easy if you are able to know what this one person is good at, because if you bring people that are like-minded, people that have the same vision, people that have the same goal, it's like you're bringing in different ideas. Now imagine if people never had different ideas but they only had the same idea, there wouldn't be development. But if I bring in my idea as Michelle, if another person brings in their idea, if this other person brings in their idea, trust me, at the end of the day, we're going to see a community that is well informed. We're going to see a community that is empowered. We're going to see a community that is health literate. Even without attaining education, they'll have that knowledge to say, if I do this, this will be the outcome. If I don't do this, this will be the outcome. And they won't be thinking just about themselves, but they'll also be thinking about the future generation, the next generation to come. At the end of the day, it's going to be a healthy, well-informed world, a healthy, well-informed country, a healthy, well-informed community. I think that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And we are really thankful for that insightful and inspiring presentation of in your polite um, and deep words. Your words have basically illuminated how hygiene awareness is not merely a health concern, but a cornerstone of community empowerment and sustainable living. We will now open the floor for questions and reflections. And the participants are very much welcome to type their questions in the chat, or they can raise their hand if they have any questions. Ms. Kanvi, any question or suggestion from your side, please?
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Like you conveyed it in a very uh, impactful way, in a very concise way. I just wanted to ask you, like, what's your perspective on do you think the only hygiene knowledge related to cycles of women should be only constricted to females and not the males? And even if we are telling it, making it acquainted to males, so how what should be the approach to make them aware? Because obviously we do coexist as fathers, they play a role, as husbands, they play a role. So what's your perspective on that thing? I would really like to know because you have done the groundwork of these things, and it is very essential part for at least women. And what's your take on that, ma'am?
All right, thank you so much. Thank you very much for that question. So, if you actually followed me through, I did talk about or bringing the aspect of inclusivity. So, when I talk about inclusivity, I'm talking about bringing men on board. I'm talking about bringing women on board. I'm talking about people living with disability. I'm talking about impoverished. So, inclusivity, that is where I brought in the aspect of each and every individual working together, trying to achieve that one thing, that one goal. And what is that one thing? Trying to make sure that we put in those hygiene practices in place so that we prevent these diseases that are coming about. Because when you talk of hygiene, um maybe I'm not just talking about an example, washing hands before eating, no, but hygiene is a broad term. When you talk of hygiene, you're talking about at a personal level, you're talking about at uh, a community level, not just an individual. This is why I have talked much about public health, because public health isn't just focusing on a person as an individual, but we are focusing at the community as a whole. So my perspective is we're not really sidelining men uh, when it comes to hygiene practices, no, but I'm incorporating each and every person to take part, to take lead, because at the end of the day, it is not just something that is affecting me, it is not something that is just affecting you, but it is something that is affecting each and every person. So also, because I'm a nursing student, maybe let me bring in this aspect. Yeah. I've seen a comment in the chat to say, is hygiene just basically on physical, like physical? No. So when you talk of hygiene, we're talking about physical. Yes, you can bring in that. We're talking about, it can be emotionally. We can also bring in that aspect, because at the end of the day, we're looking at health. So health is, it can be social, how you socialize with somebody. Health, it can be physical. Health, it can be spiritual. Health, it can be emotionally. Health, it can be intellectually. So hygiene, it's why I said it's not just about washing hands, but we're looking at healthier ways of living, healthier practices of living. So it's not just restricted to say I'm supposed to bath, I'm supposed to wash my hands, I'm supposed to, wear clean clothes. No, it's not just looking at that aspect, but it's looking at everything that will actually promote the health of community. I hope I've answered your question. So let me just go in the chat, because I've seen quite a number of questions and I'm ready to respond to those questions. How can communities sustain hygiene education and practices after awareness campaigns end? So I talked of assessment. Um, so when you talk of assessment, an assessment is an ongoing thing. Yeah, an assessment is not just something that will happen today and tomorrow, just because you've achieved what you wanted to achieve, then it ends there. No, an assessment is an ongoing thing. So you'll find that even when you assess communities, even when you find those challenges that communities are facing, at the end of the day, when all is well, you still have to go back and continue educating people, because you've quite right. You're able to curb that disease in that, in that year, in that month. But how about the months to come? So this is why now I'll talk of, maybe let's say, disasters. So when I talk of disasters, let me give a practical and maybe simple example that will make each and every person to understand what I'm talking about. So when you talk of a disaster, yeah, when you talk of a disaster, you don't know when a disaster will occur. Let's talk of an earthquake. You don't know when an earthquake will occur. Yes, we have all those meteorologists who work on that, but sometimes you don't know when an earthquake will occur. So this is when I will bring in the mitigation unit, right? So when you bring in the mitigation unit, they'll try by all means to put in preventive measures that is going to prevent that occurrence or reoccurrence of an earthquake. So basically, when relating it to hygiene practices, we carry out that assessment, but at the end of the day, even when we achieve what we wanted to achieve, we'll still continue going back to those communities and continue educating them so that they can continue preventing and protecting themselves from diseases. I hope I've answered that question. Then another question is, in your experience, what are the most common?
Yes, thank you so much.
Sorry.
Another question is that how you can explain the most common misconceptions about hygiene that hinder community well-being.
Okay, so the most misconceptions about hygiene that hinder community well-being. So I'll give an example of maybe the community where I'm coming from. I love giving practical examples, because this is me who has actually been in that kind of a situation. So a lot of misconceptions come in. Let's say people will say, in maybe like from this community in my country, there was this misconception where people were like, that relating it to physical hygiene, they were like, no, you're not supposed to wash hands when eating fruits, unless if you're eating pap, because this is like the most, yeah, pap. So they were like, you're not supposed to wash hands when you're eating fruits. That was a misconception. They believe that because of their religion would restrict them and say you're not supposed to wash hands when you're eating certain foods, because the way the creator created them was, he already created them as clean beings. So you're not supposed to, follow all those hygiene practices, which is a misconception that can hinder community well-being. Because at the end of the day, we're also looking at, in certain communities, in every community, I believe there are all those values that they follow. There are all those culture practices that they follow. So those misconceptions tend to come in when, according to that uh, culture one, community one, they follow this culture, they have all those values, they have all those beliefs. some cultures, or rather communities, they say you're not supposed to eat this and that because it's considered to be unclean, or maybe you're not supposed to do this because it's considered to not be right in the eyes of God. But at the end of the day, like, it's actually making people to not even when it comes to, let's say, maybe consumption of food, you find that you're not supposed to eat certain foods because of the community where you're coming from. The cultural practices, they don't allow you to do that. At the end of the day, what you're not eating will actually cause to have certain nutrients in the body, which can cause infections in the body at the end of the day. So I'll give it also. I'll talk of the other misconception that we have from our community. Mostly when a woman is expecting, they say you're not supposed to eat too much because the baby will be born big, or maybe the baby will be born with a bald head. But at the end of the day, it's actually causing that woman to not, follow, or rather take or have the nutrients that are needed for her and her baby. So, which is a very bad thing. But I believe with dissemination, correct dissemination of information, this can actually be curbed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A very well explained answer. And obviously, there can be some cultural stereotypes as well, can hinder the and create the obstacles in the way to achieving the knowledge or practicing that. But as a community, we can work on them and we can work for them as well. Another participant have a question like, how can we encourage youngsters into conversation like this?
Okay, so how we can encourage youngsters into conversations like this is very, very easy, trust me. And because it's something, I'm a young person, and it's something that I have been working on, and it's something that I have been doing. So number one is, young people love, having all those gatherings where you bring in maybe a certain musician, a poet that they love, you know, that will draw their attention to wanting to attend that particular event where you're going to do your dissemination of information on hygiene practices from. Number two is, I talked of visual aids. Youngsters get to have that interest when you bring in pictures, or maybe you have a project and you project something on the screen that they're able to see. It can be in form of a movie, but they're trying to disseminate information, a song, but they're trying to disseminate information. For the fact that we're living in a world that is, there's all this technology, there's all this AI, it's even easy because you're going to, bring in a lot of people on board by bringing in things that will attract their attention, that will bring in their attention. Talk of maybe games. Maybe there might be games that you are playing a game, but at the end of the day, it's disseminating information to young people, and they would obviously want to have interest in participating in such programs. Then the other thing is, we have all these young people who have interest in, maybe some, they would say, no, I want to be a journalist when I grow up, this and that, I want to be on radio, I want to be on TV. So when you give them that platform of, like, coming on radio, being on TV, and talking about whatever that they would want to say, trust me, they would be interested because it's something that is in their interest. But at the end of the day, to say you are helping them have knowledge, inquire knowledge on healthy hygiene community practices. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Michelle. It's another interesting question is here. That is, what role do community members play in sustaining hygiene practices after an event?
I guess there's some technical issue from the moderator side. So this was the question that I would like to address. What role do community members play in sustaining hygiene practice after an awareness initiative?
Sorry, kindly repeat the question.
What role do community members play in sustaining hygiene practices after an awareness initiative?
Okay, so after an awareness, I think it's something that I've already talked about. Um, I thought of like even when they gain that knowledge, they can still be, teaching their fellow community members. They can be having all those community gatherings. They can be going in different areas just to teach them on information on uh, uh, spread information on community gatherings, practices, and also the other thing that community members can do is have workshops and also just go in schools and have such conversations with the learners, because when learners attain that information, they're going to tell maybe their guardians, their parents at home, of which they would also want to have interest. So this can also be done in an easier way by having the meetings at school where you bring in parents. They come, you have those conversations, and you just encourage them on how they can make sure that they keep up with those hygiene practices. I hope I've answered the question.
Yes, ma'am, well answered. So Miss Tiamo has her hand raised. So Miss Tiamo, you can unmute yourself and address your question to the speaker directly.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much for the session. Sometimes I get to think that I'm becoming very obsessed about this issue of mental health, seeing mental health everywhere in everything. So when most often when we talk about hygiene, people think of the physical aspect of it. So I just wish to the presenter that how can we really make the mental aspect really show, or the relationship between the physical and the mental aspect really come out. For example, I'm a lived experience of mental health issues, and I quite remember when the moments I was so down, so depressed, I wouldn't even like to brush. I would not want to, I would not be able to take a shower. And imagine someone just coming to me and focused on you have to take your shower every day, you have to brush morning, afternoon, evening, and the person doesn't care about my mental wellness. So I see that there is an issue there. And even at the level of the community, imagine you come to a community, you tell people you don't I mean people who are distressed, you need to, you tell them you need to keep your communities clean, because in that distress, keeping places clean sometimes is the least of their priorities. Or sometimes we just say you shouldn't dump here, and we don't provide, for example, the trash cans we dump. So some of those specific information, like someone asked about indicators, how we're making progress. We also know that when you have mental health issues, you isolate yourself. So how will you encourage someone who is not mentally okay that go out and keep your environment clean in order to avoid diseases? And so my focus is just how we can emphasize for people to begin looking at the mental contribution to the physical aspect of hygiene. Thank you.
No, all right, thank you so much. That's a very good question. Um, so I did talk about assessment. So assessment is in stages. I can't just come in a certain community and I tell them to say, you are supposed to clean, you are supposed to do this and that, it doesn't work like that. It is a process, it is an ongoing process. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, social well being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So it is not just about the physical aspect, like you have said, yes, it is also about the spiritual, the emotional, the intellectual aspect. So now, when we look at the mental aspect, yes, quite right. There are people who are facing different challenges out there, and some get to isolate themselves. I have been there, and I understand. So I believe my perspective, my personal understanding on your question, and what I would like to say is, I believe talking to someone in helping them, regain that, how they used to be from how miserable they are right now. It is a process. So what an individual can do is just to, you can be taking baby steps. Yeah, you can be taking baby steps. You talk to that person, and some they might not really want to express themselves there and then. Like I said, it is a process. So you have to make sure to take those baby steps, have an interactive discussion with them. It can start with a how are you, how are you doing. Tomorrow you go, it is a different story. And trust me, before the month ends, you'll be able to they will be able to express themselves. Yes, some it takes a while, but all I can say is you just have to take baby steps, be patient, and also before you go to another person and encourage them on the whatever mental issues they are facing is, you have to understand yourself as an individual. Let me give this example. Let's say it is an example, yeah. Let's say I have anger issues. And I don't really socialize with people. And I come to you. You've seen me do that. Or maybe the first time that I approached you, I was a bit rude. I can't just come to you and say, you're supposed to start cleaning. You're supposed to do this. Like, trust me, you wouldn't want to be near me, or rather express yourself in a way that you're supposed to express yourself. So study yourself first, know your weaknesses, know what you're good at, then go and talk to another person, because when you know yourself, it's also going to be easy for you to know how to talk to another person. So as a mentor, yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm back. What have I been missing?
Oh, uh,
Sorry for the interruption, ma'am. You can proceed.
oh, all right. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so you have to know yourself before you talk to another person. Mental health issues are something that I believe a lot of people have actually overlooked, because mostly people, because they don't have much knowledge on mental health, they just go like, okay, mental health is maybe when somebody has gone mad, or maybe somebody's not in the right state of mind. But mental health also is not just about something going mad, no, and going at the rubbish pit and picking all those things, the dirty things that are there. No, but it is also about how somebody is affected emotionally. So the only thing that we can do when it comes to mental health is talk to individuals in a way that you're supposed to talk to them. Take time with them, because just treat them like they're babies. With babies, we always take our time, because at the end of the day, we want our babies to learn how to speak right. Want our babies to learn how to walk right. So we are always patient with them. So I think that's the same thing that we can do with our friends having or facing mental issues. Take baby steps, talk to them in a way that you're supposed to talk to them in a proper way. Study yourself. And the other most important thing is, when you've learned to love yourself, it's going to be easy for you to offer that love to another person. I hope I've answered your question.
Okay,
Uh,
ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you.
yes, thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
We have another question. I think it would be the last one. How can we spread awareness or educate our community, especially women, if women's involvement in the community is restricted and limited?
Okay, good question. So I talked about this, but let me talk about it in this way. I've seen in most communities where women are restricted to do certain things just because one is a woman. We have all those of femininity restrictions, of which I believe it's not supposed to be that way, because I strongly believe in gender equality, and I believe in equal opportunity for all. So if a man can be a president, what can stop me as a woman, as a female, from becoming the president? If a man can do well in math, what can stop me? If a man can do well in physics and these sciences, what can stop me from doing good in those subjects, in courses rather? So the only thing that we can do to spread awareness and educate our communities, especially women, is first and foremost, you have to look at the community where that young woman, that where that woman is coming from, because trust me, you don't want to end up in court for forcing someone's wife to advocate on things that maybe the husband or the community does not allow them to do. So I believe it all starts with it can start with radio dissemination, TV dissemination of information. You go on radio, you go on TV, and be able to advise young women on why it is important to educate them, or rather to take part in issues that are affecting them. And also, if you are doing something it might not just be in academics, but if you're also doing something work related that would actually inspire another woman, be a content creator, post something on your socials. I believe social media has the power to you know to be able to disseminate information and rather connect with a lot of people. What do I mean? What you post on social media will surely haunt you 10 years, 5 years from now. So what I'm trying to say is post things that will be able to inspire other people out there, so that even you, when you grow old, when you look back and check on your socials, you'll be able to see and be proud of yourself to say, I used to post things that would inspire a lot of young women out there. I used to post a lot of things that would actually, make women out there stand up for themselves and do things that they thought, that men thought they wouldn't do. So it all starts with you as an individual. So you can talk about, yes, empowering communities and educating them, but also what are you as an individual doing to make sure that you inspire another woman out there? I can proudly say with my activism with at only the age of 23, I am doing a lot to make sure that I educate my communities on matters that are affecting them. I'm making sure that I tell my fellow women to stand up and just take up all those political leadership roles, because I believe when a woman can do it, even a man can do it. When a man can do it, even a woman can do it. So it all starts with us. If you yourself you make a difference, trust me, it's going to be easy to make that positive impact in the community where you're coming from. It's going to be easy for you to make that positive impact in the country that you're coming from. And at the end of the day, the world at large, it will be full of empowered people, not just restricted to women, but equal opportunity for all. Women taking up those leadership positions, women being able to stand up for themselves when things are wrong, women to be able to speak up when they see something is wrong. And trust me, I believe when an empowered individual stands up, the whole community is empowered, the whole country is empowered. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mishal, for this wonderful and one of the significant session you have conducted and involve all the participants with your valuable knowledge. Thank you so much. Let us carry forward the spirit of empowerment that stems from knowledge, awareness, and shared responsibility. Today's discussion reminds us that hygiene is more than a personal habit. It is indeed a collective commitment to dignity, safety, and social well being. On behalf of Women Ascension Community Outreach Department, I extend heartfelt gratitude to our mentor for her wisdom and guidance, and to all our participants for your meaningful presence and engagement. Thank you so much for being part of this initiative. Ms. Kanvi, now it's over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kiran, for handing over the stage to me. I would personally uh, thank ma'am as she has given us an impactful session. Her inspiring and insightful presentation on empowering communities through hygiene information, her emphasis on community assessment, interactive workshop, and the use of visual aids for the practical pathways through which hygiene education can truly resonate across diverse population. It has stood most was unwavering commitment and to inclusivity, reminding us that effective hygiene outreach must embrace all individuals regardless of literacy levels or backgrounds. Uh, Today's speaker's creative approach through demonstration, poetry, and storytelling reflected not only her deep understanding of community engagement, but her belief in power of community sensitive communication. Her examples for lived experiences brought authenticity and clarity to the challenges and solutions in hygiene advocacy. Most importantly, she reminded us that sustainability in hygiene practice is not a one time intervention, but an ongoing journey of assessment, adaptation, and involvement. By addressing cultural misconception and offering practical techniques, she has equipped us with tools to foster healthier and more informed communities. I once again thank you, ma'am, for your wisdom, warmth, and unwavering dedication to public health. Your voice today has not only educated people, it has inspired. And we are really grateful that you were on our platform for delivering your knowledge. Thank you a lot, ma'am.
Thank you so much as well. I'm truly grateful for the opportunity, and I believe that when we work together, trust me, we're going to see an empowered, informed community. Thank you.
Indeed, ma'am. Thank you a lot for having you on this. Our stage was a pleasure, and we would soon see you in near future on a very different topic, on a very deeper aspect of the hygiene for this. Thank you a lot, ma'am, and thank you all participants for joining in. Although we had two sessions today from our community outreach series, and we really appreciate on that thing. Um Now the session is officially over, and thank you all for joining in. And those who have missed any part, the recording will be shared. Please go through it and make sure to make an impact out of it. Uh, Thank you a lot, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. We are now signing off on behalf of Women Ascension.